The smell of sizzling onions and frying pepper filled the air, wrapping itself around the busy streets of Oberland Market. The morning sun had barely risen, yet traders were already setting up their stalls, calling out to customers, arranging their wares, and exchanging morning greetings. But in the heart of the market, amidst the chaos and chatter, stood a small buka that had become a legend, IYA Basira's buka. People came from far and near just to have a taste of her food, especially her jollof rice. It wasn't just food, it was an experience. The rice had the perfect blend of smokiness and spice, the aroma alone enough to make mouth water. No matter how many times customers ate from her pot, they always craved more. Some washed plates themselves so that they would be served. Ifeoma, a young woman in her early 20s, stood behind the counter, serving plates of steaming jollof to a long line of eager customers. She had been working at IYA Basira's buka for 6 months, hoping to learn the secret behind the irresistible taste. Ifeoma once had her own restaurant in the bustling part of Lagos, hoping to make a name for herself in the competitive food business. The restaurant was charming, with brightly colored walls, traditional wooden furniture, and the air filled with the inviting aroma of her cooking. She had dreamed of this moment for years, pouring everything she had into the venture. But despite her best efforts, business was slow. The first few days were quiet, with only a handful of customers trickling in. When the weekend came, she hoped for a boost, but it didn't happen. One by one, people came, ordered, and left without a word, some not even finishing their meals. Ifeoma couldn't understand it. She had followed every recipe she knew, and the food was always fresh and flavorful. She watched her competitors, especially IYA Basira's buka, draw large crowds, always bustling with people waiting to be served. It was as though her food, despite being good, was missing something. The tipping point came one evening when a family of 5 came in for dinner. They ordered her signature jollof rice, the dish she was known for, and after the meal, they left without so much as a thank you. Ifeoma, a customer, said as he finished eating his food the rice was okay, but it didn't have that kick. The flavor wasn't as deep as what we're used to. It stung. It wasn't the first time someone had given her similar feedback, but it was the most direct. She had tried everything, new spices, more oil, even experimenting with different cooking techniques, but nothing seemed to match the taste her customers were expecting. One evening, as Ifeoma walked past IYA Basira's buka, the irresistible aroma of the famous jollof rice hit her like a wave. She stopped in her tracks and watched the crowd gathered around the buka. People were smiling, laughing, and clearly enjoying the food. Her gaze fixed on the old woman behind the counter, IYA Basira, the woman whose food had always seemed to have a magic of its own. Frustrated and defeated, she spent sleepless nights thinking about what to do. She knew she couldn't give up on her dream just yet, but the thought of her business failing haunted her. It wasn't just the taste of the food, it was the secret something that made IYA Basira's jollof irresistible. That night, Ifeoma made up her mind. She would go to IYA Basira, learn the secret recipe that made her jollof the talk of the town, and use that knowledge to reopen her restaurant. The next morning, Ifeoma walked into IYA Basira's buka with a humble heart. She approached the old woman, determined to learn whatever it took. IYA Basira, Ifeoma said respectfully, I need your help. My restaurant isn't doing well, and I've heard so much about your food. Please, I want to learn your secrets. I'm willing to work for it. IYA Basira looked at her with wise, tired eyes, a knowing smile playing on her lips. You want to know my secrets, huh? Are you sure you're ready? She asked, her voice as steady as the simmering pots in her kitchen. Ifeoma nodded. I'll do whatever it takes, IYA. I can't give up now. With that, Ifeoma began working at IYA Basira's buka, watching closely as the old woman worked her magic in the kitchen. This was her chance to finally learn the true recipe for success, a recipe that would transform her cooking and her future forever. She had been working at IYA Basira's buka for 6 months, hoping to learn the secret behind the irresistible taste. "Abeg, give me extra meat, make I enjoy well," a man pleaded as she handed him a plate. Ifeoma chuckled and shook her head. "No extra money go make you enjoy well, Oga." The man laughed and paid for his food before taking a seat. Ifeoma wiped her forehead, sneaking a glance at IYA Basira, who was behind the curtain that separated the cooking area from the serving counter. The old woman was humming to herself as she stirred a small clay pot, one that Ifeoma had never been allowed to touch. That pot was the key. Ifeoma had tried everything, using the same ingredients, following IYA Basira's cooking process step by step, but her jollof rice never had the same magic. No matter how closely she observed, something was missing. She has asked IYA Basira on different occasions what's the special recipe that make her food delicious. "Mama, what is the secret to your jollof rice?" she asked, pretending to sweep the floor. Mama Put chuckled, her plump cheeks lifting in a knowing smile. "Oh, my daughter, it is experience." Ifeoma frowned. "I followed everything you do. I use the same tomatoes, the same spices, even the same pot. But it never tastes like yours." But IYA Basira always repeat the same thing and told her it is experience. Tonight, she would find out the truth. Later that night, after the buka had closed and IYA Basira had gone home, Ifeoma returned. She carefully unlocked the back door and stepped inside, the scent of smoked rice still lingering in the air. Her heart pounded as she made her way to the clay pot, which sat covered on the wooden counter. Slowly, she lifted the lid. Inside was a thick, red sauce, bubbling lightly as if it were alive. The smell was overwhelming, richer, stronger, almost intoxicating. Ifeoma dipped a spoon into it and brought it to her lips. The moment the sauce touched her tongue, a wave of heat spread through her body. It was unlike anything she had ever tasted, deep, complex, almost otherworldly. A shadow moved behind her. "Ifeoma." She froze. She turned slowly to find IYA Basira standing at the doorway, her face unreadable. "What do you think you're doing?" Ifeoma's hands trembled, the spoon clattering to the floor. IYA Basira stepped forward, her eyes dark and unreadable. "You have crossed the line, Ifeoma," she said, her voice eerily calm. I just wanted to know," Ifeoma stammered, still tasting the mysterious sauce on her tongue. IYA Basira sighed and walked past her, gently placing the lid back on the clay pot. "Curiosity is a dangerous thing, my daughter. That sauce is not for you." "But what is it?" Ifeoma pressed, her voice a mixture of fear and excitement. "I've tried everything, Mama. I use the same tomatoes, the same seasoning, the same firewood. But my jollof is never like yours." "What is in that pot?" For a long moment, IYA Basira said nothing. Then, she sat down on the wooden stool beside the cooking station, gesturing for Ifeoma to sit too. "You want to know the secret?" she asked finally. Ifeoma nodded. IYA Basira exhaled deeply. IYA Basira's voice was heavy with memory. "When I was a young woman, I struggled just like you. I wanted to be the best, to have a name that people would never forget. My mother took me to the old women of our lineage, and they gave me this sauce. But there was a condition." Ifeoma swallowed hard. "What kind of condition?" "The sauce is alive," IYA Basira whispered. "It must be fed." "Fed with what?" Ifeoma asked, though deep down, she already knew the answer. IYA Basira's eyes darkened. "With blood." Ifeoma's stomach turned. "You mean, you've been?" IYA Basira nodded slowly. "Not all sacrifices are human, Ifeoma. At first, I only used animals, goats, chickens. But over time, the sauce became hungrier. It demanded more. The taste customers love so much, it comes at a price. And that's human blood. A human sacrifice. You can walk away now, IYA Basira said. Or you can learn. But if you choose to stay, you must be willing to pay the price. Ifeoma's hands clenched into fists. She wanted to run, to scream, but a part of her was still drawn to the power in that pot. That night Ifeoma couldn't sleep. The sauce, the whispers, the demand for blood, it was all too much. She had come to learn how to cook the best jollof in Lagos, not to be part of something this dark. That night, she made her decision. She would destroy the sauce. Waiting until IYA Basira had gone home, she returned to the buka, carrying a bottle of kerosene. She would burn the pot, the sauce, everything. But as soon as she stepped inside, she found IYA Basira waiting for her. "You cannot destroy what you do not understand," the old woman said coldly. "You lied to me," Ifeoma spat. "This isn't about food. It's about power." "Power and food are the same thing, Ifeoma," IYA Basira said. "Do you think all the rich men that eat from my buka would still come if they knew? They do not care. They only care that the food tastes good." Ifeoma shook her head. "I won't be a part of this." IYA Basira sighed. "Then you leave me no choice." Before Ifeoma could react, IYA Basira flung a handful of black powder into the air. Everything went dark. When Ifeoma woke up, she was tied to a chair in the kitchen. The clay pot sat in front of her, its contents bubbling wildly. The whispers were deafening now. IYA Basira stood over her, holding a knife. "You will be the next keeper of the sauce," she said. Ifeoma struggled against the ropes. "Mama, please." "You had a choice," IYA Basira said. "And now, so does the sauce." She raised the knife. In a final act of desperation, Ifeoma kicked over the clay pot. The sauce spilled across the floor, and a terrible scream filled the air. The pot shattered, and the whispers turned into agonized wails. The walls of the buka shook violently, and IYA Basira let out a piercing cry as she collapsed to the ground. By morning, IYA Basira's buka had burned to the ground. No one knew exactly what happened. Some said it was an accident. Others whispered that it was punishment from the gods. But Ifeoma knew the truth. She walked away from Oberlin that day, never looking back. She would start again, this time with honest food, honest work, and no shortcuts. Because she had learned the most important lesson of all. Success without integrity always comes at a deadly cost. Thank you all for watching. From the depths of my heart, I really appreciate you guys for watching and supporting me. Please, if you haven't subscribed, click on the subscribe button to do that. Turn on the notification button so that when I post a new interesting stories you will be the first to watch it. Please comment, like and share to your loved ones. See you in my next story.